What's going on, fight fans? Welcome back to the Boxing Tip. I am your host, Sebastian, or you can call me Sibo. Most people do. But anyway, from the title of this video, you probably already know what I'm getting ready to talk about. This is the fight between Joe Saunders versus Artur Akavov going down on December 3rd. This will be my prediction and breakdown video of how I think this fight is going to turn out. Also, I'll kind of be talking about the qualities of both fighters and how can they implement, their tactics, their skills, any advantage that they might bring into the fight. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so the first fighter I'm going to be talking about is the WBO middleweight champion, Joe Saunders. He is the more well-known fighter between the two. I'm going to be going over a few things that I feel he brings into this fight that he does well, and then I'll break them down into a little bit more detail. But before we get into that, I just want to mention very quickly about Joe Saunders' situation with the whole Triple G thing. Believe me, I have opinions of my own about it, but for the sake of this video, I just ask that everybody keeps that idea in the back of their head and just focus on the fight at hand while I'm breaking this down. Thank you. So you can see on your screen that I have about 5 things listed for each fighter that I feel are qualities that they bring into the fight. For Joe Saunders, I just want to talk about his jab, his feet, his defense, his counterpunching, and his situational awareness. The first thing I'm going to bring up about Joe Saunders is his jab. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it though. It is a pretty straightforward topic in a sense that it is a very traditional jab. And what I mean by traditional is that he uses it in a way that a jab is typically used. He starts his attack with it by breaking the defense of his opponent when he throws it. He throws it at particular targets to keep his opponent guessing on where the next shot's going to be. And I've seen him use it as a counter punch to disrupt the offense of his opponent, which can build frustration, which can make a fighter actually throw punches that they don't want to throw, which can set up counters, which I'm going to be covering about Joe Saunders here in a moment. The only negative thing I could say about Joe Saunders is not so much about his jab, but he has a tendency to wait a little longer than he should. I'm pretty sure he's waiting for counter opportunities for when his opponent attacks him. Against Artur Akavov, I don't think that's a good strategy. I think he needs to pump out that jab just a little bit more. Artur Akavov is a fast starter. He does like to get in your grill, and he does use some pretty good tactics to break you down, which I'm going to be going over later in the video. Now, another thing I like about Joe Saunders is his active feet. And when I say active, I mean he's always moving, except for when he's waiting. Like I said, he does have a tendency to wait a little longer than he should. But other than that, he does use his feet very well, especially while he's punching. He doesn't just plant his feet and punch. He likes to start turning in a circular motion to create an angle to throw his punches more accurately, which is a very good quality to have, and it works especially well if you're a southpaw fighting a right-hander and vice versa. But Artur Akavov is no right-hander, so that is going to be a little bit more challenging to pull off against him. He also uses his feet as a defensive method when he does get into a little bit of a scrap with his opponent. Like I said, he moves in a circular motion, what actually moves his opponent out of position, and it's a little bit more difficult for his opponent to throw punches at him. And when he gets in position, he also can use his feet to escape from a scrap that he doesn't want to be in, which is a very good tactic. It's a very good defensive responsibility. Which brings me into my next point, defense. I want to talk about Joe Saunders' ability to block punches effectively. I noticed that when he fights, he keeps a pretty high guard at all times, so when he does get into exchange, it's a good thing because he's always ready to catch a punch on the gloves where they should land and not his face. And the reason he is able to do it so effectively is because his situational awareness, which is the next point that I'm going to bring up, which also kind of talks about his counter punching as well. So everything kind of meshes together. As you can see, there's not one thing a fighter needs to do right. He needs to be able to perform many things well in order to be productive in a fight. And what I mean by situational awareness, I'm talking your perception. Joe Saunders has very good perception. He's able to read a situation very well and react to it accordingly. Also, he's able to see what his opponent's doing, which enables him to block those punches. If he could see the punches coming, he could defend against them or set himself up to be able to counter his opponent in the middle of his punches, like he did against Andy Lee when he knocked him down with that really crisp short right hook in the middle of Andy Lee's punches. And I do notice that Joe Saunders is a pretty good counter puncher. I noticed in the fight with him and Chris Eubanks Jr., anytime Chris would kind of lead the attack, Billy Joe Saunders was right there to counter with that good jab like I was talking about, and it would kind of force Chris Eubanks Jr. off of him. And when you're going up against a bigger puncher than you are, that's a very good ability to have because it won't allow you to be bullied. And with that being said, those are my 5 things I like the most about Billy Joe Saunders. These are 5 things that I think that he can implement against Artur Akavov in their fight, which he's probably going to have to, and he's going to have to do them a little bit better than he's done, because I noticed, and let me tell you guys something, Artur Akavov doesn't get the credit that he deserves. The dude is a good boxer. I noticed on YouTube a lot of people have been calling him bum or he's a nobody, which, yeah, he kind of is a nobody, but he is no bum by any means. And quite frankly, I feel like the people I've heard call him bum probably have never watched a fucking fight by this guy, because if you watch a fight and you know boxing well enough, then you would know that this guy is a pretty good boxer. I know people make fun of him because he looks like, what's his name, the Wolverine. I know that's his ring name, and it's kind of funny, but at the same time, I do recognize him as being a pretty good boxer, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins this fight, and then I'm going to go ahead and tell you why. So the first thing we're going to talk about Artur Akavov after my little rant there is the first point: passes the eye test. Now, it's not the first point in the list, but it's the first point that I'm going to talk about because I feel like it sets up every other point that I got listed there. Now, I won't lie to you, I haven't heard of this guy up until recently, maybe the beginning of the year, I think. And when I seen him fight, I was pretty shocked. The guy's pretty good. I think where the whole bum thing stems from is, are people kind of salty about Billy Joe Saunders not fighting Triple G right away, or if he ever does, who knows. But I don't feel like that's any reason to kind of throw salt on this man's skills, because in my opinion, he is a very skilled and talented fighter, and he does pose a threat, especially to Billy Joe Saunders. Now, granted, I'm not going to hype this guy up too much. He does lack the big time experience, or having experience in big fights. It's, going into a fight with Billy Joe Saunders. I think they're fighting in the UK. They might be. I don't have to check. But that's a big deal. He's a huge star over there, and they love him. So it could be a little bit intimidating for him, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he has a real chance of winning. I ran it a little bit there. Sorry about that. But it all kind of goes in with passing the eye test. When I first seen him, like I said, I thought he was a real talent. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the other 4 points of what I seen from Artur Akavov that proves to me that he has a real chance of winning this fight. Sorry, I kind of ranted there a little bit again. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the other 4 points on this list that Artur Akavov possesses, which I feel is going to pose a threat to Billy Joe Saunders and why he passed the eye test for me. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is the punch selection. Now, I noticed in his fights that he doesn't really throw punches in a typical way or in typical spots. He doesn't just lead off with his jab and then throw it straight left, He likes to kind of pick and choose where he puts those punches. And he doesn't really jab too much either. He kind of paws with his right hand, kind of like a Guillermo Rigondeaux. He paws with it, kind of checking that range, keeping his opponent busy, keeping him thinking, and looking to set up something off of that pawing right jab. So when he does punch, I noticed that he does like to throw the lead left to the body first. It's a good way to kind of start off whatever he's getting ready to do. He works from the body up, which is really good practice because it keeps your opponent guessing. You can make them drop the guard. While their guards drop, you land some shots up top. While you're landing some shots up top, they pull up their guard, and then you go back down to the body. So it's a good way to kind of keep openings and keep your options open, and it keeps you in control of those exchanges. And another thing I noticed is that when he has his opponents on the rope, he doesn't just charge in there and start throwing wild punches. He actually kind of takes his time, gets right in front of them, and then he starts picking and choosing where he's going to throw those punches. Like, he'll start off at the body, throw like a hook to the top, an uppercut, a straight. It's in real random fashion, even though it's not random to him. It's just random to the opponent to kind of keep them guessing and keep their arms at home. So whenever they do throw, being that he's taking his time and picking and choosing, he's always ready for that return fire. And if that return fire does end up coming, he's ready to get out of the way, he's ready to defend, or he's ready to counter, which can put that opponent that's on the rope in even more trouble. And that's something that Akavov does pretty good, actually. I noticed that he does it quite often, and that to me is someone who has, it screams talent to me, because you don't see it very often. A lot of guys like to jump in there and smother their punches. It can be real sloppy, and a lot of the times they take punches coming in. When someone can actually be patient enough to, when they got their opponent hurt or backed up, to actually pick and choose his shots, it shows some discipline there. Like, he's been in these situations, he's practiced these situations, and he's ready for these situations. And that meshes well with the point that I have listed on your screen, the tactical point. He doesn't just do things because he wants to do them. He does them because it's what the situation calls for. I have not yet to see him do anything completely random, which is a very good quality in any boxer, and it poses a threat to any boxer that he faces, and it just doesn't say enough about how much he actually knows. So when Billy Joe Saunders comes in there to fight, depending on what's going on, you never know. This guy might already have something cooked up, something that he's going to give a try. If he doesn't like the results, he's going to try something else and try something else. The man seems pretty versatile. And speaking on his versatility, I want to get into his defense. He has a really good defensive strategy. He uses his feet to get away from punches. He doesn't just stand there and take punches or try to slip punches or try to block punches with his arms. He knows that if he uses his feet to just back up, sidestep in a circular motion, however he needs to do it, if he's not there to get hit, he will not get hit. And I have yet to see him get hit with a really good shot unless he was coming in and he got countered. But everyone gets timed at some point. Even some of the most great defensive fighters get hit. So, not to call him a great or anything, but, he gets hit from time to time. But a majority of the time, he doesn't. So, he has good defense. And lastly, I want to talk about his head movement. And with his head movement, he changes levels, feints, and uses his head movement as a form of defense. Now, when I talk about changing levels, I'm just talking about, how low he ducks his head. If he's kind of in an upright position and he goes to a more lean position, that's changing levels, basically. And changing levels and feinting kind of mesh together in a way, because it is kind of a feint. You don't know where the opponent is going to attack. When you duck your head a little bit lower, it usually indicates going to the body. When you come up, it usually indicates that you're going to be punching to the head. So with this head movement, and his changing levels comes feinting, and it's a really good way to kind of get a fighter, to either drop his guard or lower his guard or raise his guard if you want to go to the body. So it's really versatile. The way he uses it for defense, in a way, his head movement is so random that you don't really know where he's gonna be. You can't really time that. You could, I'm sure, if you're good enough, but it'll be very complicated to do. Yeah, he uses his head movement as defense, he uses it as a feint, and I think that is going to be one of the most effective things that he could use against Billy Joe Saunders, because like I said, Billy Joe Saunders has a tendency to wait. When you got a guy coming at you, and he's changing levels and he's feinting, and you're waiting, you're focusing, you're thinking about what he's doing, and he's only going to show you what he wants to show you. So I think that's going to play pretty good in his hands whenever he gets into that fight. So that kind of covers everything that I like about Artur Akavov and the way that he fights. Now, to kind of talk about how I feel this fight is going to play off, it's going to be a pretty good chess match in my opinion. Both fighters are real patient. Like I said, Billy Joe Saunders likes to wait. Artur Akavov, he likes to kind of pick and choose what he likes to do. So with that being said, I kind of consider this a 50-50 fight. It could really go either way in my opinion. I'm going to slightly lean towards Akavov, or the Wolverine as most people want to call him, just simply off of his tactics. He does things in a way that not a lot of fighters do. Billy Joe Saunders is a good defender, so maybe, he can kind of put a stop to all that. To kind of tell you how this fight's going to play out is really difficult, because either fighter, it really kind of matters in the first couple rounds who establishes that dominance. If Billy Joe Saunders can establish that dominance and use that experience to kind of bully Artur Akavov, you know, that'll play well in his hands if he plays the bully. I think he is the harder puncher between the two, so that could work well for him. Artur Akavov, he just needs to play cool and kind of figure out Billy Joe Saunders early and just build up that momentum round by round by round and kind of put that beat down on him slowly, because you don't want to jump in there with a guy who's a much heavy-handed guy than you are. So with that being said, I am going to be picking Artur Akavov slightly. You know, I guess we'll see after tomorrow, because that's when the fight is, and you know, you can come back to my video. If I was wrong, you could tell me that I was wrong. Just give me some feedback. I'd really like it. This is my first breakdown and predictions video, so I would really appreciate it, you know, if you guys let me know how much you liked it. Also, let me know if you like this format. If not, I could always do something a little bit different. So with that being said, I just want to thank you guys for watching the video. My name is Sebastian, and this is The Boxing Tip. I'll talk to you on the next one. Peace out.